All right, here we're going to finish up our notes for section 6.6 and looking at these inequalities. So when you're working on these, this was a typo when I printed these out. This should really be 3 to the x is less than 20. So just like we did above when we were solving the equations, to undo this kind of, we're going to go ahead and take the log, right? Because that's how we can undo and get rid of some of these things. So since my base here is a 3, I'm going to use my log base 3. So I'm going to take log base 3 of both sides is less than log base 3 of 20. So remember, these two things will cancel out. So x is less than the log base 3 of 20. So now that I have something like this I will just put in my calculator using the change of base rule in order to kind of solve that and simplify, because it's not a base 10, and I will end up seeing that x is less than some really long decimal, and that's okay. So we just follow kind of the same rules for our exponentials. So let's look at our logarithmic inequality, because there's one final step that we have to do here. So here I see I am dealing with a base 10, so I know to undo logs, I will do 10 to that. I will turn this exponentially. So that will make that cancel out and go away, turn it to 1. So I know x is less than or equal to 100. We're almost done. One thing we have to know is back with our logarithmic functions, we're limited in our domain, right? So our domain is always going to only be positive values. And we can see that if we look back at our graphs of our log function right here. You see we have this asymptote, and an asymptote is a line that the graph approaches but never actually touches. So I have this asymptote at 0, at x equals 0, so I'm only dealing with positive values. So I need to include that in this when I'm looking at these inequalities. So I also know that x has to be greater than 0, just because it's a log. So then my final answer is I can include these because 0 is going to be the smallest value it can ever be. And it can go all the way up to being 100. So when we're doing this logarithmic inequality, I just have to remember that it has to also be greater than 0. So no matter what else I get for my answer, I have to remember that and include that in my final answer. So now we've looked at both solving some equations and some inequalities using both exponents and logarithms and going back and forth using them. So now that we've done that, go ahead and work on the practice problems for this section and let me know whenever you get stuck.